The year is 1085. Toledo has just fallen to Christian forces under Alfonso VI of Castile. In our timeline, this moment marked a turning point in the Reconquista as Christian kingdoms began the slow but steady push southward, reclaiming Spain from Muslim rule. But in this alternate world, the Umayyads, heirs to a once mighty dynasty, rally. Instead of losing ground, they push back, reclaiming lost lands and turning Iberia into a permanent Muslim stronghold. To see why this changes everything, we need the real backdrop. The Umayyads were the first great Muslim dynasty, ruling from Damascus between 661 and 750. Overthrown by the Abbasids, a single prince, Abd al-Rahman, fled to Spain and built a new Umayyad emirate in Córdoba. It became a dazzling center of culture, architecture, and learning. By the 10th century, Córdoba rivaled Baghdad as the jewel of the Islamic world. But over time, internal division weakened Al-Andalus. Christian kingdoms in the north pressed south, and by 1492, Ferdinand and Isabella captured Granada, ending Muslim Spain forever. But what if, instead of decline, the Umayyads turned the tide? Picture Toledo in 1085. Instead of surrendering to Castile, Muslim reinforcements arrive in time. The Taifa kingdoms, fractured city-states of Muslim Spain, unite under a reinvigorated Umayyad leadership. Córdoba, once the heart of a caliphate, rises again as the rallying banner. The armies of Alfonso VI are driven back, their conquests erased. Christian advances stall, the Reconquista halts before it can gather momentum. The immediate impact is dramatic. Muslim Spain, instead of shrinking, expands. The line of control pushes north, reclaiming Leon, Castile, and Aragon. Entire populations face choices: conversion, coexistence, or exile. Christian peasants in these lands, who in our history became the backbone of Spain's future, now live under Muslim rule indefinitely. The cultural identity of Iberia shifts decisively toward Islam. Zoom into daily lives. A Christian blacksmith in Toledo, in our world newly under Alfonso's rule, here continues forging tools for Muslim patrons, his children growing up bilingual, speaking both Romance dialects and Arabic. A Muslim scholar in Córdoba, instead of fearing collapse, thrives in renewed stability, compiling works of Aristotle, Galen, and Avicenna for a flourishing court. A Jewish merchant in Seville, spared persecution, builds networks that stretch from Cairo to Córdoba, enriching a cosmopolitan economy. Culturally, the Umayyad revival makes Spain the unrivaled intellectual hub of Europe. In our world, Córdoba was already a center of science, philosophy, and art. With centuries more stability, its influence deepens. Universities in Paris and Oxford, which later absorbed learning from translations of Arabic texts, now send students directly to Córdoba. Arabic remains the language of science in Europe for far longer. Latin lags behind. Religiously, the consequences are profound. The Reconquista was not just political but spiritual, tied to the crusading movement. If the Umayyads reclaimed Spain, the crusading spirit may never ignite the same way. Urban II's call for the First Crusade in 1095 was fueled in part by Christian victories in Spain. Without them, the appetite for crusades in the Holy Land wanes. Jerusalem may remain under Muslim control indefinitely. The clash between Islam and Christendom never takes the same crusading form. Politically, Europe is transformed. A strong Umayyad Spain blocks Christian expansion. France, instead of dreaming of pushing south, looks inward. The Capetian dynasty consolidates power in Paris but without the southern frontier to expand into. England, newly under Norman rule after 1066, faces a different balance of power across the Channel. Mediterranean politics tilt sharply toward Islam, with Umayyad fleets dominating trade. Zoom again to individuals. A Norman knight, instead of joining a crusade in Spain, stays in Normandy, his restless energy seeking outlets elsewhere, perhaps in England, perhaps never leaving Europe at all. A Genoese sailor who in our history ferried supplies for Christian crusaders now finds richer patrons in Muslim Córdoba, his voyages reaching Africa and the Atlantic under Islamic sponsorship. A young Castilian noble whose ancestors fought to reclaim Iberia here grows up a subject under Umayyad governors, his Christian faith tolerated but his ambitions stunted. Economically, Muslim Spain becomes a powerhouse. Control of fertile Andalusian farmlands and Mediterranean trade routes fuels unprecedented wealth. Irrigation expands, harvests grow, and cities flourish. Granada, Seville, and Córdoba sparkle with palaces, mosques, and marketplaces. From textiles to mathematics, the innovations of the Islamic world spread into Europe through Spain more directly and more deeply. The balance of economic power shifts westward into Iberia, making it the center of the Muslim world alongside Cairo and Baghdad. The ripple effects reach North Africa and beyond. In our history, the Almoravids and Almohads rose in Morocco to defend Muslim Spain, but here, instead of propping up a crumbling Al-Andalus, they become partners in an enduring Umayyad revival. North Africa and Iberia integrate tightly, creating a Western Islamic superstate. Trade flows across the Sahara intensify, gold from Mali, salt from the desert, and slaves from Africa enrich Córdoba. Europe, starved of direct access, grows increasingly dependent on Muslim markets. The Renaissance as we know it shifts dramatically. In our world, Italian city-states thrived on Mediterranean trade with Byzantium and the Islamic world, sparking a cultural rebirth. In this alternate timeline, the heart of that trade lies in Umayyad Spain. Florence and Venice still prosper, but Córdoba becomes the first Renaissance city, blending Greco-Roman revival with Islamic artistry. Leonardo da Vinci's counterparts may be Muslim polymaths painting domes and solving engineering puzzles centuries earlier. Colonization also changes. In our history, Spain's unification under Ferdinand and Isabella in 1492 set the stage for Columbus's voyage and the European colonization of the New World, but in this alternate world, there is no Catholic Spain. The Umayyads endure. Islamic fleets, not Spanish caravels, explore westward. The first contact with the Americas may come not from Columbus, but from Muslim sailors sailing under crescent banners. The New World becomes tied not to Catholic monarchies but to a Muslim caliphate. By the modern era, Europe is unrecognizable. The Reformation, tied to Catholic dominance, unfolds differently. Without a unified Catholic Spain enforcing orthodoxy, Protestantism may never spread in the same way. Christianity itself may remain fragmented, overshadowed by a dominant Islam in Iberia. The Enlightenment, too, carries a different flavor, shaped by centuries of Muslim intellectual dominance in the West. One last zoom into human fates. A peasant girl in Castile in 1200, who in our world grew up in a kingdom forged by Reconquista, here tends olive groves under Muslim landlords, her children raised in a bilingual household. A Jewish physician in Córdoba, instead of fleeing persecution in Christian Europe, becomes a respected scholar, his works copied from Morocco to Damascus. A Portuguese sailor in 1500, instead of serving Catholic kings, sails for an Umayyad Caliph, his compass pointing west across the Atlantic in service of Islam. Would this world be better? For learning, tolerance, and science, perhaps yes, Córdoba's golden age extended could have brought more progress earlier. For Christian Europe, perhaps no, its cultural identity would be weaker, its expansion slower, its dominance never certain. The modern world might have been Muslim-led, with Spanish mosques instead of cathedrals defining the skyline of global power. So, what do you think? Would the Umayyads reclaiming Spain have led to a brighter Islamic golden age, or would Europe's Christian kingdoms eventually find another way to rise? Drop your thoughts below and subscribe to Sheriff Reactions. Hit the bell for daily flips where we explore not just what happened but what might have been.